Danielle, and I'm about to take you through a week of my life as a yoga teacher. I figured it was only appropriate if I sit on my yoga mat on the floor. Well, I'll give you a little background here. I got my certification about a year ago, went through the yoga teacher training, and I've been teaching consistently since then. I've got 8 classes to teach this week, which is pretty normal for me on a week-to-week basis. And that means that this is a side gig for me. It fits in with other things that I've got going on, but it is a big part of my life, and so I'd love to show you into that world and give you a taste of what it's really like to be a yoga teacher. Whether you're just curious or you're actually considering signing up for yoga teacher training, it might be important to hear about my decision to sign up. The summer before last, I went to an open house for yoga teacher training with the fitness center that I was a member of. I just kind of had this hunch, I should go to this open house and just see what happens. And I got to talking with the 2 teacher trainers in the program, and I just fell in love. I totally clicked with the philosophy and felt the strongest gut instinct that I have in a long time. They talked about how yoga is all about getting back to yourself, and that using verbal cueing rather than just modeling in front of the room really helps people get into their own body and know where they should feel a certain pose. And there's so much more to this story, but basically I just really clicked with how they were talking about how they teach. So for the rest of this week, I'll walk you through what it actually looks like to be a yoga teacher and all the things that come with it, as well as some tips along the way. So what is it like to actually prepare for classes? Well, I have 2 coming up in a couple hours, so that's exactly what I'm about to do right now. I'll give you a taste of what it's like. I've got my little setup here on the top of my dresser with my mat in the background. And what I do to map out a class plan is I take my notebook and I either pull inspiration from things I've been thinking about recently, whether it's a certain combination of poses or, a certain movement or something like that, or I'll look back at what I've done for the last few weeks and switch it up. But I'll start to put together some of those thoughts and scribble it out and make a plan here in my notebook. And it's really nice to have this record from the past to pull from what I've done before, or just know how to make things different from week to week. And actually the process of writing it all out helps me to remember it better. Another part of the process is making the playlist for the class. I have a record of all the ones I've done in the past, and usually I'll make a new playlist because it's one of my favorite parts. But Spotify is where I collect songs that might be good for future classes or make the new playlist, and I date everything. I've got it sectioned out for the 5 main types of classes that I teach, and I've got a whole list of very punny playlist names. And then after I've made the class plan and done the playlist, I will actually go through the class on my own mat in my own body, and that helps me remember it. Right now it takes about 15 minutes. It took longer at first, and I'll probably take less time in the future, but that always just kind of makes things click in my mind so that I can remember it, especially if I'm doing back-to-back classes like I am tonight. I'm on my way to teach my classes right now, but I just wanted to speak a moment about nerves. I remember when I started, which was really a little less than a year ago, I was pretty nervous at the beginning, and it's just something that you have to get used to. With time, you get more comfortable in a certain space with a certain skill, and so it's just one of those things that you're gonna be nervous at the beginning, and you just have to get used to it. I just got here, so we'll head in and get the room set up. Just finished teaching my classes. They were great, and I have a couple more little tips here as I wrap up and close up shop. I didn't mention this before, but I actually have playlists that I play before class, just like chill music that people can relax to, so that's something that I prepare as well. And then it's also super important to have this little tool right here. If you have an iPhone, it's an aux converter, and I always keep multiple with me because let me tell you, the one time that mine broke and I taught a silent class, it was a little bit painful, so I always keep a couple of those with me. And then I will tell you the tip to improving fast with your yoga teaching is to give yourself feedback after each and every class. So just right below my class plan, I'll start with the positives of what I really liked, what I thought went well or want to do again, and then I'll talk about what I'd like to improve or change or work on for the future. And I don't know anyone else that does feedback for themselves after every class, but it's been a game changer for me. And it's also so important with your manager or with your fellow teachers to have them come every once in a while and to give you feedback as well. One of the classes that I teach is a combination between high-intensity interval training and yoga. I know it seems hard to imagine, but seriously, this is the coolest stuff. I love that class. And so that's actually what I did as my workout this morning. It sounds kind of cheesy to say that, but honestly, it's actually a good thing to kind of know what a class feels like in your body since you're, verbally cueing, at least at the studio I work at. Actually, afterwards, I stopped by the room where yoga was happening, and there's this great group of people who I teach on Thursday mornings, and it's Tuesday morning, but there's this similar class, and so I just stopped in to say hello, and they're seriously the best. It's like this group, it's an intro to yoga class, but it's this group of people between 45 and 75 who are just like killing it at yoga, so I love them. I'm gonna go ahead inside my house, just got home, get some work done, and off to teach yoga a little bit later tonight. All right, so it has been like 7 hours since I talked to you last. Today's just been like a whirlwind with work stuff, but now I'm gonna go head to a location that I haven't shown you yet to teach a couple of classes. Basically the one I did this morning, and the other one, the HIIT exercise one, and then another is called a flow class. It's basically like typical hot yoga class, so I'm excited. And on my way here, I wanted to talk about personal style as a teacher, not clothes, which by the way, I don't own any Lululemon clothing, which may be out of the ordinary, but I wanted to talk about your personal style as a teacher when you instruct your classes. First off, this is something that'll develop with time, and it kind of takes just noticing what you like in other teachers and just what comes out in your personality. But for me, I just notice that when I loosen up and I crack a joke every once in a while, that I'm really in my element. And language is huge for me. I love using lots of different verbs and descriptors, so that's something I pick up with each class that I go to. And the thing to watch out for with personal style is if you feel like you're putting on a mask, like you're putting on the yoga lavender voice, and you're just using a different voice that's not your own. Don't do that. Like it'll feel so fake, and it just makes you more nervous. So don't put on a fake voice, just find your own voice and roll with it. I've been here at the gym for 4.5 hours now, but it was fun. I taught 2 classes. They went well, and I did some work in between. And it was awesome because there's yoga teacher training here held tonight with the same teacher that taught mine. And she had people come to the last class I taught, which was like a typical hot yoga class. And it was great because we did feedback afterwards, and it was just fun to hear what they had to say and what she had to say. And it just felt very full circle. Also, people always compliment me on my playlists, which call me full myself, but I think they're pretty good. And actually, one of the positive pieces of feedback that I got was related to something I was talking about on my way here, which is language. So they said I had great, vocabulary, verbs, and descriptors helping people get into their bodies. And that's something I pride myself in, and I'll tell you exactly how to get that. I go to yoga classes, and every time I do, I take this little notebook with me, and I write down things that I like. So whether that's like just a little new way of describing a sensation or something like that, or just like a new verb like surge or twist or windmill, and I'll copy it down and I'll use it, and that's a way that I progress. So if you want to get good yoga vocabulary, go to classes, bring your notebook, and collect new descriptors. But whether that's something you want to work on specifically or not, seriously, going to classes is going to help you improve so much. So actually walking in with an ear for what you like about it, what you want to try as a teacher, if that's something you're interested in, and that will help you progress a ton. Good morning. In a few minutes, I'm heading off to take a class, to take notes, kind of what I was talking about with shadowing and learning from classes. And so I'm gonna go ahead and pop in the car. I know these sunglasses are obnoxiously big and shiny, but I don't even care. In other news, let's talk about yoga on the way to this class. I wanted to speak to the investment of yoga. So obviously there's a financial investment of a couple $1,000s for yoga teacher training, which like by the time you teach a year or two of classes, you'll have paid off, and maybe by that time you'll be a good teacher. I wanted to be realistic about the investment of time as well. So that really includes getting yourself to each of the studios, which, one of mine I have to leave like an hour before the class actually starts so that I can get there 15 minutes early to greet people, which, is definitely a time investment, especially when I've got other jobs. There's also the time investment of learning new formats and just continuing to, be a learner if you really want to improve, like going to these classes. So it does take a time investment. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, which if you're watching this, you're probably not expecting that, but it's just good to keep that in the back of your mind that for a year or two, you're going to be kind of paying off your financial investment, and then there's also still the time investment of getting better. That being said, there are definitely business opportunities, and I'll share a little bit of what I've learned about the business of yoga as well later this week. I'm gonna go now because I feel like this entire video has been in my car, and also I just got here. But later today I'll give you a peek at that online training I mentioned and another location I teach at. And I might give you a little recap after this class as well. I'm jealous of anybody who looks good after workout. I usually have like a dilapidated ponytail and a bright red face. So to give you an idea of the kind of notes I take during a class, the ones that I just took during that class, the HIIT Meets Yoga style class, some of the things I wrote down were a sequence I liked, a saying or a word that stuck with me, a transition from pose to pose, or even just an idea that I had as I was going through the class. And that's stuff I can learn from and use later. Last night you would have seen the third of the amazing studios I teach at, as well as this morning I had my amazing intro to yoga group, and I actually had my test out as well for a certain certification. That's the update. And then tonight I teach at the same location I taught last night, and then I have a private class tomorrow morning. To speak to the certification piece, what I really love about the fitness center I teach at is that they have these specific formats that are really well thought out that kind of cater to all the needs, and you get certified in the different types and you can teach them, and the magic in that is that you can go anywhere in the country to one of the locations and you kind of know what to expect in terms of challenge level and what you're really getting out of the class. So I kind of like that there's like a brand to it and a consistency and really a foundation that you can build off of, and obviously you get creative from there and you have your own voice and your style. But that's what I really like, and part of the reason that I teach where I do, so that there is that kind of consistency element. I think it makes it really approachable for people. So that's just something to think about if you're considering teaching yoga and where you might want to teach. By now you would have seen the private class that I teach, so I thought this was the perfect opportunity to speak to the different options for where to teach. So there's like your corporate nationwide gym or fitness center, and that's where I work at, and I have nothing bad to say about it. They pay between $20 to $30 an hour around when you start out, and it's a really good opportunity for practice, getting feedback, being in a great network of teachers, and you don't necessarily have to worry about how many people come to your class. You want to, get your numbers up and connect with people and get people coming back to your classes. But it's just a really great place to start. There's also private studios where you get paid by head, about $5, I think. And so you really want to get a bigger group there because that's going to make the difference. And it's just kind of a different structure and probably a different philosophy, studio to studio. And then there's also private clients what are going to pay better, and you can use word of mouth or social media networking, to find either sports teams or different local businesses where you can go and teach some classes. And those are kind of the main ways to get out there and teach. And that group you saw was some former coworkers of mine. It's mid-morning Friday and I'm officially done teaching yoga for the week. The fact of the matter is I'm not vegan and I buy my leggings from Target, but I still feel like I have a thing or two to say about learning to teach yoga. If you have any questions, comment them below. If you learned something useful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to stay in the loop. Bye!